Welcome back, guys. Talking about the Amazing Digital Circus today, or more specifically, episode 9, reviewing it, talking about the ending. And if you could tell by the thumbnail title, obviously I didn't like the ending, and I would like to discuss an alternate ending and maybe discuss some plot holes floating around that people think would be too much of a problem if we were to go with an alternate ending. I just thought that would be fun to discuss, so let me know what you think in the comments. Spoiler heavy, I'm not going to try to tiptoe around everything, so if you haven't seen it, I recommend going back and binge watching the entire thing. But I did like the show a lot, so that's why I wanted to make this video, because I was personally really disappointed in the ending. I don't like it. I think it was a really stupid in a lot of specific ways. There were some things that were done well, but others were really bad in my opinion. And if a lot of people were happy with it, good, because you endured quite a few long episodes, and at least it didn't feel wasted for all those other people. But for me personally, yeah, I didn't like the ending. Overall, I did like the show a lot. I even rewatched a few episodes that I just found very fun to watch. Good jokes, and I like the animation. I like the personalities of the individual characters a lot, their designs, and just some of the episodes are just fun and rewatchable. So overall, yeah, it was pretty fun. I liked it. This next point wasn't a super huge thing on the internet, but it did pop up quite a few times where people said they were worried or thought it was going to be woke garbage, I guess, and it really wasn't. There wasn't anything like that. I mean, when it came out in theaters, there was a lot of comments about that theater is going to stink, and there's going to be a bunch of furries there, or there's going to be a lot of these individuals. Not really. I went to go see it in theaters, and there were maybe 1 or 2 people that fit that description, but I don't know if that's because it was made by a transgender individual. I think that's what Gooseworks is, I do believe, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't maybe expecting a few things here and there, but no, it wasn't very pushy. The most that it did was there was a gay character, I believe that was Zubul, who went by they, them pronouns, but again, they didn't really do anything with that. They didn't get pushy with it. I was mostly focused on the overall story of them trying to escape, the AI taking over. I found it very unique. I know there's been similar stories. It's based on a book, apparently, that follows that kind of story. But again, with the character designs, their personalities, the voices, the animation, it felt very unique. And I just couldn't help but compare it to other movies and TV shows of the past few years, if not decade, and it just seemed really good compared to those things. Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, other animation. I know those are kids movies mostly and family movies, but even adult animation or even live action films. There's a lot of Hollywood crap going around with $1 million budgets, and this show I felt like outshined a lot of those, and it was a really cool project, and yeah, I really liked it, and I was excited for the ending. But yeah, I felt like it had a Game of Thrones moment or a fairy tale moment, whatever you want to call it. The ending, it just wasn't good. I don't feel like the way they tied everything up and answered all the questions we had, and all the mysterious, are they gonna leave, is there no chance of leaving, and how they answered it and explained their answers, I didn't like. Now just going into episode 9, starts with them realizing, okay, we're not actually humans, or we're not connected to an actual physical human body in the real world. They're off doing their own thing. We're just brain scans. We're just AI copies of them with their information, their memories. So they realize they're stuck. There's no way out. We're stuck here forever. They all kind of have their little moment being depressed in the beginning, thinking about that. Jax gets really depressed about it. Long story short, you've seen it. They tried to use their new powers of that Kinger taught them to focus, and they could control the environment, and they could rebuild it and try to make it a home for them to stay in. And they just tried to make peace with the fact that they were stuck there. That was a small portion of the episode. The majority of the episode was Pomni turning out the lights and being alone with Jax in his monstrous abstracted form, and going into his mind, I guess, and communicating with his inner self, and trying to find out more about him, talk to him, see his past relationships with the frog and the clown, and then eventually having the real him-ish, finally open up more, hug Pomni. But even up to that point, he was a little hesitant, told her to go away. She still stayed. He hugged her, and then his last words were, I don't want to go. And then he died. and then he vanished. And so I'm just like, okay, that's kind of messed up final words to give that character, but okay. A lot of people online were happy about his death, like, oh yeah, he was a bad character, of course they killed him off, and I'm happy about that. And other people were just like, that's kind of messed up. That's kind of a messed up ending. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not saying I wouldn't have done something similar. If anyone was going to die, I would have assumed it was going to be him. But anyway, just to finish it up quickly, the recap. Kane was in the void the whole time, and then he becomes a better person while he's out there. He realizes, I need to let go of the blue AI. I can't take hostage of it anymore. It's not right. He Gojo style uses his curse technique, blue, and he shoots it away. And then he becomes a better person, realizes, oh, I'm horrible and I need to fix myself. He breaks a few digital walls down, firewalls down, accesses the internet, finds out more about the human counterparts of the main characters that he's been torturing this entire time with adventures and whatnot. Makes his way back into the circus area where there's color now and they've rebuilt things. He introduces himself and then apologizes, tells them, you know, I'll give you control of this place, you know, do what you want, and I'm so sorry, can we be friends? Jax is now an abstracted monster that they keep in a dark pillow fort, and Kane showed them a little slideshow of their human selves, and look, they're doing fine out there, and look, Jax is delivering packages, and you're all doing great, you know. And they realize, you know, like, you know what, yeah, you know what, and don't call us those names, call us by our circus names. And they have dinner, and they just kind of realize, yeah, we're stuck here forever, let's make the most of it. And Pomni looks at the camera, the end, happy ending. Yeah, okay, sorry, hope that didn't take too long. All right, so my problems with it. They had little Easter eggs pointing since episode 2 or something. People claim there were Easter eggs, that they were brain scans. Episode 8 for sure had hints of that. I mean, there was a muffin thing. There was some hint there. Apparently, someone told me the muffin that was cut in half in front of Kinger when he mentioned that Scratch was working on something. And also Scratch, they never mentioned that guy again in episode 9, I don't believe, except for the very first minute. But then they never mentioned him again. But they were hinting at escape. They had whole episodes around them thinking they were going to get out of there and escape. And then all of a sudden, it's just, we're just hit with no, they're just going to stay here. Minus a fun character. I don't care what you say, he was fun. He was my favorite character for a reason. He was fun. Yeah, he was a bully, but yeah, he was fun. And, you know, it's like, oh, are we going to see him grow and change? Nope. To the very end, he was bitter until he was abstracted. And once he's a monster and on the verge of death, one of the characters is going to talk to him, give him a hug, and he's going to say, I don't want to die, and then vanish. Everyone else, though, just gets to stay stuck there forever. Some people would say that, yeah, but you have to do a change of plan. If you just go with what the story was hinting at all along, well, it's too obvious and it's boring. Not if you do it well. You can do both very well. You can have something hinted at, a final battle between two characters, people trying to escape from somewhere. That can be done well if you don't know which characters are going to make it and which characters aren't. That can be done very well. They could have done that. I felt like they could have. I think they really thought they were clever with it when they're like, oh, that we're gonna make them think they're gonna escape for so long, and, you know, little Easter eggs are gonna be here for true fans to dig in and look and see. Oh no, they're not gonna escape. They're gonna be stuck here forever. Without the foresight of thinking, that's a terrible ending. And here's why. For me, it relies heavily on the fact that they're not really human. And this is debatable. People have been talking about this online, that they're not human. Moments like Kane constantly referring to them as human. Also, there was a scene where Gangle was very depressed and Zubul came up to her and said, hey, we're still human. And it was super dramatic and it was supposed to be emotional, but to me, after the ending, I was like, that scene doesn't really feel the same way. It doesn't really feel impactful anymore because you're not human. To me, they're not human. They're not, if they're not connected to a real physical human body strapped to some chair or machine or headset in real life, they're no different than the CPUs that Kane would make for their adventures. They're no different than the candy people, the Australian alligator. They're no different than them. In certain ways, they're no different than them. They're not that much more special. And then some people might try to argue, no, they are. Those other creatures were just made off of some general information that Kane, the AI, was fed by the company, or whatever he could gather while he was connected to the internet or whatever. But the main characters, their information is pulled directly from a human brain, you know, while it was connected to a headset for a short period of time. So they have an extra layer of, I don't know, being human because they have human memories. So that makes them a little more special. If you want to try and make that point, that goes into the next area here where it actually makes the ending suck more. I saw somebody leave a comment online, I think it was TikTok, where somebody said they went with the safe ending And a lot of people agreed with that comment and said, yeah, they kind of did. Yeah, well, what did you expect? And I read those comments and I hadn't seen the finale yet. All I thought was, oh, that just means nobody's going to die. I was like, oh, okay. For as dark as the show is sometimes, I was like, I thought someone would. Again, you don't have to have a good story or a conclusion, but that could seem like the original creator just caving into the crowd, trying to appease everybody, because every character in this show has a fan base. And so I was afraid of that, but now I think I know what they meant. So it seems like they're trying to comfort people by saying, oh, you're worried about them staying in the circus, being stuck there? Don't worry. The human counterparts are doing just fine. Oh, you're worried that the digital Jax never got to meet his mother in real life and tell her he's sorry and reconcile things. Don't worry, the human Jax is doing all that. The one you've never been with the entire show, the one you've never spent time with. If anything, we don't even know if they would grow up to be the same person, because it doesn't work. I can see what they're trying to do now. I think I know why a lot of people were saying they went with the safe ending, because they're trying to comfort you with the fact that they're stuck in the circus by saying the humans are fine, which my response is, well, that's great. I don't care. I don't know who those people are. Apparently I don't, because I haven't been with those people all this time. We've been with this group of characters. They're stuck in hell. They're stuck in a circus tent. They have human memories, which means apart from the NPCs, they know what life is like to sleep, to eat, to feel real pain, to have families, to have a spouse, have children, reproduce, make other generations of you, eventually grow old, die, so you don't go insane like most people who are immortal in movies and TV shows. You live too long, you go crazy. They have all the memories of that kind of life, and now they're forced to be in a circus tent with just a few other characters, and everyone else that they could have around them is just going to be a digital CPU that they make with their powers because they've been given control, I guess. But they'll never have real children. They'll never have real spouses, in a sense, you know what I mean? And they'll never die, apparently, I guess. And it's a hell. It's not a good ending. It's not a good place for them to be. It's not with their memories. So it's kind of circular logic, or I don't know if that's the right term for it, but it just goes round and round where it doesn't make sense. If you want to make the argument, oh yeah, they are special. They are more special than the regular CPUs down here, the candy people, the crocodiles. No, they're more special than that. They're human-ish. Okay, well then that just makes me feel like the ending sucks, because if they're up here, that means this place is hell for them, based on the human memories they have from real life. Trying to show us the humans to comfort us is just not working. It didn't work for me. I didn't go, oh great, Jax is doing great. Well, the one we've been with the entire time died a horrible death, in a sense, you know what I mean? But his last words were, I don't want to go. It's kind of confusing, the back and forth here. I hope you get what I'm saying. Just, I guess I feel happy now. Oh look, they're stuck in the circus, but hey, they're gonna make a good life out of it. I'm happy for them. I guess I'm happy for them. I don't know if I should be. You have these human memories, so you just know if you make digital children for yourself, or a spouse, or friends, or neighbors, they're all fake and they're all just code, and you're just like, you're the one with human memories, so you're just like, these people aren't real. They're just computers. Oh yeah, and also, yeah, there's a slight inconvenience, but if you get kind of depressed and you have anxiety and you go off and you're alone for too long, you might turn into a big horrible monster. Who wants to live in that world? Why are we supposed to be happy that they're stuck there? And that their human counterparts are out there doing fine. I didn't like that. I personally lean on the side of they're not special. They're not human. They're more just NPCs. It takes away. It doesn't make them so special when you realize that. Now they just feel like all the other ones, with a little extra information taken from real human beings. But it feels like that's because it feels like that's how Kane made the other ones. Even the crocodile got depressed when he realized he was a computer. How advanced of an AI is that it gets depressed when it gets hit with some reality about what it is? So it seems like Kane did use information from real people in the real world to make them, so it doesn't seem like they're too far off from the main cast. Okay, enough about that. Alternate ending. First things first, the headset. So they didn't say directly, but there were some theories going around that so the company just made headsets, VR, or just, or headphones that when put over you could scan your brain, or that's how, Kane was able to scan their brains and take a digital copy of their minds and make such advanced AI characters of them with their memories, which I think is a little far-fetched. I know the whole story is very fictional and has a lot of far-fetched things, but I don't think that means you get to be excused for something like just putting on a physical headset, just covering your ear physically. A VR headset is just a lens. You're looking at a screen. So just your eye looking through a piece of glass or having a physical headset cover your ear, and that was enough for Kane to just scan the eyeball and scan the open ear and take information. It just seemed really, that seemed kind of stupid. So I have a problem with the headset thing. I would want it to be something more of like actual wires hooked up or something maybe drilled into their head to the point where they can still survive, obviously, but whatever, something a little deeper than just a physical headset covering your ear, or a VR headset covering your eye. Something a little more complex than that, which obviously bleeds into the next thing that I would have done differently, which this is not going to be a surprise to anybody. I think a lot of people were thinking this, that they were actually hooked up to machines in the real world, that they were actually human beings hooked up to chairs with a headset on or something and wires hooked up to them. And as soon as I left the theater, I was telling my friend this. I was like, here's how I would have done it. Like, this is what I thought was going to happen. And just a few days later, I saw people online saying things like, I'm glad they weren't, hooked up to machines in real life and their bodies just rotting away, and someone else replied to that comment I saw on Reddit. They were just like, yeah, me too. And I was just like, I saw that and I was just thinking to myself, like, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want them to be a rotting pile of flesh still hooked up to the machine. That's no different than them just being physically gone from the machine. That would again imply a brain scan, or they're just, barely clinging to life because they've been hooked up to the machine for so long without food or water. Obviously, I'm implying that there would be some Inception type of a plot going on where time moves differently in the real world than the digital world. You could do something like that. It literally works like that in our dreams. Sometimes I have a dream where I'm in another world. I'm in some place and I feel like I've been there for hours. And then I wake up and I'm like, how long was I asleep? And, 10 minutes, 20-minute nap. Like, okay, I felt like I was somewhere hanging out for hours. You could have done something like that. That's what I would have done, so, they're in the circus for like years, and in reality, they've been, hooked up to the machine for maybe a couple days or a few days. And even then you might say like, oh, you need food and water. Well, yes, you hook them up to some IVs, you put some nutrients into their bodies, and yeah, they might be a little sick afterwards, but you can just imply that they've been in there for hours or a couple days. You don't need it to be, oh, they've been hooked up to the machine for months and they're dying, or weeks and they're, rotting flesh. Like that's not what some of us meant. That's not what I wanted. So I wanted real people hooked up to real machines. Okay, the next question obviously is, is there some evil, malicious company that kidnapped them? Or would it be a company with good intent that just invited them? I leaned to that one. I thought about it and I thought, no, I would want it to be a good company with good intentions that invited them. Think about it. There are people with different personalities and backgrounds, and say the company was just like, look, we have an advanced AI that is creating its own worlds, and we can virtually put people in there and see how it interacts with them. We have an amazing project. Let's offer people money and try to see if we can get people of different backgrounds. That'd be a cool concept there, where they go, okay, here's a lesbian bartender. let's get her involved. Here's a girl that likes to explore abandoned warehouses, make YouTube videos. Here's a girl who's into anime. Here's one of our own workers, scientists here, Kinger, Ragatha. Here's a girl who's rich and spoiled, maybe, or grew up in a comfy lifestyle. Here's the very opposite. Here's a homeless guy who's we found on the street. That could have been really cool how they got Jax. Like they just wanted a bunch of people of different backgrounds, and they wanted to see how the AI would interact with them and learn from them and make environments for them based on their background, based on their memories, and hook them up to the machine. And then when they initially go in there, they again get a little foggy in their memory and they can't remember why they're there, but they do have memories of putting on the headset, They do know they're human. They do have memories flooding in later on from when they were human. They do remember all of those things. So it's good intentions. So everything else is the same, with Kane taking over the blue AI and, you know, becoming corrupt and just becoming insane to a certain degree. Getting so intelligent, he also becomes insane, and he tries to keep them locked up to himself. With him just scanning some brains and making some AI copies, once you realize that, it doesn't feel too threatening anymore. It doesn't feel like, I don't, if I start again from the beginning, now I don't feel like, they're not human. Like, yes, they have human memories and they're very intelligent, so it gives you a little sense of, oh, they're people. Again, I can't separate them too far from the CPUs, so it's not that threatening, versus if they're actually attached to human bodies and there's a vulnerability there, then there's some more weight to it. And so let's say they hooked them up to the machines, and then they told him what it was for, right? And then Kane goes rogue, and he takes over the system while they're hooked up, and they realize it. And let's say the people in the company, they realize it, and they're like, okay, we need to disconnect them. And then they do some research, they pull up some numbers, make it look complicated and scientific for us, whatever, and they come to the conclusion of, we can't disconnect them. If we disconnect them from the machine, they'll be brain dead. They'll be like a vegetable. We can't do it. Like, it's holding them hostage. And let's say they just can't communicate with Kane. They try to, they can't. Maybe he refuses to communicate with them through text or through whatever. All they know is he's holding them hostage, and maybe he does send some cryptic message about why he's doing it. And, you know, because he's insane and he doesn't want to be lonely and he doesn't want to let them go. Something like that. Other movies and shows have done something similar to that, where they couldn't disconnect somebody. Inception kind of did that, where if they die too deep in the levels of dreams, they just wouldn't come back fully, like mentally. And this could do something similar, where you could say just them being in the digital world is like them being that deep down into dream world, like Inception. Other immediate questions that came to my mind was, okay, then how do you justify, say, the dog guy, some of the original characters that were there long before Ragatha, Zubul, Gangle, everybody else, right? Older characters and the newer characters coming in. How do you solve that? You could say something like, when they hook certain people up to the machine, spaced apart. Remember, time moves differently, right? So literally when they sit a girl down and go, we're going to hook you up to the machine and put you in this virtual world that the AI made. Okay, cool. And then they sit another girl down, let's say it's a 5-minute gap, and then when she gets there, it's been like months, and that character has already abstracted. I think that would be pretty cool. I think that would be pretty cool if they hook them up just a few minutes apart, and it's months or weeks in the digital circus. And those people have extracted, they've gone through drama, they've gone insane, you know, and they've realized they're stuck there with Kinger, but they can't say anything about it, right? And they can't tell the scientists in the real world what's going on. That would have been more horrifying. That would have been scarier. I think that would have been way better. And then every time they mention that they're human, and Zubul's like, we're human, you know what I mean? Kane refers to them as humans. It would have carried so much more weight. Okay, and then let's just move on to the final point. We're almost done here. Just, what do I change about the final episode? It all revolves around them being hooked up to real machines with a real threat of being brain dead or something similar to that if they're disconnected, Kane holding them hostage. Does the final episode still go the same way it does? No, yes and no. Yes, Jax still abstracts. I would still have that happen. I think that's great for this ending, this alternate ending we're talking about. I think that's great here. You'll see why. No, in my version, it doesn't end with him shouting, I don't want to die, and then dying on screen. That just doesn't happen. And then we're just going to get some fake comfort with, oh, his human version is doing fine delivering packages. Like, it's not going to end that way. But it does follow him being abstracted. It does have Kane changing, getting deleted, being in the void. All that's the same. And he has a moment of clarity. And he makes his way back to the circus, just like we already saw, right? Okay, just real quick, back to Jax. Jax still abstracts. I would even have Jax still have, you know what, everything the same. The way he talks to Pomni, the way he communicates with her. And I know what you're thinking, like, didn't you just say you don't like that he says that? No, I don't like that those were his final words. I don't like that was like the last thing we heard Jax say was, I don't want to go. But I still want him to say that in this version, and they pull Pomni out. I promise you, I think this would be really cool. they still have Kane change, and he comes back. And if you remember what we established earlier, if he's holding them hostage, okay, he's good now, and he tells them, I can release you. I can take down some walls I set up. You actually have human bodies, and I can let you safely transfer back there if you want. I never should have forced you to stay here, you know, and I'm sorry. You know what I mean? He still could have shown him like a slideshow or something and said, like, this is what you all look like. These are your names. I found these, and I need to put you back there. And let's say the scientists back at the building or whatever, they realize, like, oh, Kane's messaging us, and he's texting them on a computer screen. He's typing messages to them, and he tells them, like, I'm sorry for all I did. I'll let these humans go. I'll let them back into their bodies safely. You know, I've learned my lesson. I'm sorry for what I did. You know, whatever. Have it be something that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. But okay, now that's too happy of an ending, really. Oh, okay, so you have the even safer ending. You know what I mean? I could see that. I could see those critiques, but it doesn't. So then would be the next question where they go, oh, that's great. You know, Kane, you're good now. Okay, you know, we forgive you. Whatever. You know, you can let us go. Great. What about Jax? What about all the people that were abstracted? To which Kane replies, there's nothing I can do about that. And then you might be thinking, okay, so your version still ends with Jax's last words being, no, they don't. So what I would do is, no. And they already kind of established this for us. Pomni was able to touch the monster, Jax's abstracted form, and go in there and talk to him. And Kane was able to just snap his fingers and heal Pomni immediately. So it's not dangerous for Kane, but it's dangerous for Pomni. I would love it if in this version, Kane tells them, I can't save those who were abstracted. When their mind goes there, there's nothing I can do. When Jax wakes up from this in real life, you know, he'll be brain dead, or he might be dead, or, you know, whatever. He won't fully come back. But there is something I can do. I can talk to them, and I can even save their final words. Like Kane can record them. He can record their final words. Just the same way that Pomni went in there and spoke to Jax, at least in a sense, and really talked to his inner self in that monster. Kane can do that too. And they cry and they're sad. There's a sad moment about that. And then it moves on, and then Kane is able to go to where all the abstracted monsters are in the cellar or wherever they are at this point, and he gets a recording from them, and he goes and he sees Jax. He goes inside there and he says, is there anything you want to say? And Jax hears everything. He sees that they're all going to be able to go home, and Jax realizes that he's not going to be able to go home, but they are, and he leaves a final message for his mother, and he tells Kane, tell all of them this. And he leaves a personal message for, say, each of the characters that he's been with this whole time, and he apologizes to them, and he says what he likes about them or whatever, and he has a change of heart, and he says some heartfelt words, but again, he's not coming back. He's not going to live in real life, and he leaves a message for his mother. Let's say he asks Pomni to deliver it, or Abigail in real life, and yeah, he lets them all go, and maybe there's a little compilation, a little sad montage at the end where it shows the company telling family members, like, the AI left some voice messages. You know, it's a little weird. I understand that, but hey, I mean, how much weirder was the actual ending? You know what I mean? But something like that, that's what I thought. I thought something like that would be cool, where the company or some of the surviving family members, you know, they had to tell them something we have to give you these audio recordings. These voice recordings are really from the minds of your daughter, your son, your husband, your whoever went in there before the main characters, right? And let's say there's a sad little depressing kind of montage of that. It's semi-happy, semi-depressive that they get final words. And then it ends with Abigail maybe going to Jax's mom, knocking on the door, finding her and saying, like, I want to play this for you, you know, and let's say we hear a heartfelt message from Jax in his own digital voice and saying goodbye to his mother and apologizing for everything, and that he wished he would have come home and made things right, and that he made good friends, and that, you know, whatever, you know, like something like that. Like that would have been 10 times better than I don't want to go and then he's gone. If you want something a little happier than that, you can have it be to where maybe there's an implication at the end of the movie or something that, oh, maybe there is a way for him to come back and not be brain dead. Maybe they, with exercises, and maybe they can hook him up to the machine more, and maybe, they can tell Pomni, she visits the company and they tell her like, his mother has allowed us to work on him, and with both of our AIs separate now, maybe they can work together and try to figure out some way to put his mind back together, but we're not 100% certain, and whatever. But I still, I would go with my darker version, but you could go there too. Either way, this whole alternate version is that I've come up with and tried to piece together. I think that's way better. There's more weight to it. There's more at stake when they're real human beings connected to a real machine that they can't be disconnected from. You have an Inception type of time thing going on, so you don't have to worry about their bodies that much when it comes to how long they've been hooked up. It separates them from the rest of the NPCs, and it doesn't make you feel like they're stuck in a living hell at the end of the movie. Why would you want them to stay? Why would you want them to stay there? I'm not going to be a broken record. We already explained why it's a living hell to be there. You shouldn't want them to stay there. I think it's weird. If you're happy with that ending, I don't know. I think that ending's really weird. I don't think they're in a good place. So I know I'm coming off like an idiot right now, because it's like, dude, you didn't see the Easter eggs all throughout the series? Like, no, not really. Like, I didn't really pay attention to them, I guess. But yeah, I know there are hints here and there that they were just brain scans, but I didn't pay too close attention to like the very end on that stuff. And yeah, I thought they were going to go that. If anything, when I did see a few little hints there, here and there, I thought to myself, maybe they're doing like, maybe they're like really trying to trick us. Like they're making us think like, oh, they're just going to escape. It's just some escape plan. And then, oh, they're throwing little hints that they're just brain scans. And what if that's throwing us for a loop and they are going to escape? They're going to double down and they really are going to escape. I was hoping for that. I was hoping like, oh, no. They're really connected to human beings in the real world who are hooked up to headsets and they got to get out of here. But no, they stuck with the brain scan thing. They're just memory files. They're just NPCs. And I don't know about you all, but I just don't like that. I thought that was pretty bad. I don't really have much else to say. That's my alternate ending. That's what I would have done. That's kind of what I would have done with Jax. That's kind of how I would have had it end for him, a little differently. And I don't even think I would show the real human beings in real life. I think I would have not shown their face. I really think I would have just shown the back of their heads, like their hair, like just the back. I wouldn't show their face at all. Even with Abigail going up to a house and knocking on the door, maybe just showing the mom's face, or maybe not. I don't know. There was something, because we've seen them digital for so long. I felt like that would have been neat if we just didn't see the human faces. That's just me. I don't know what you think about that. Also, just them gathering together like that at the bus stop, I hated that. I hated that so much. I just thought like that was cringy. Like, that's too much shown. That's way too much shown. Why would they all be at a bus stop at the same time when they don't know each other? Because they didn't say hi to each other or anything. Like, oh, hey, they didn't know each other. So they're just at a bus stop, coincidentally, and their digital characters are on a adventure together with this AI, and they all just so happen to be at a bus stop on the same day. Like, it's just, even Ragatha? I thought Ragatha was wealthy. I don't know why she would be using a public bus anyway. So it just seemed really weird. That was stupid. I didn't like that. I would have liked if like maybe two of them bumped into each other and the rest you just showed them in their regular life. Or no, I mean, if they're all hooked up at the same time, when they get out in the building, you show them interact with each other. Like, who are you? Like, what's your name? Like, oh, are you so-and-so? Yeah, I am. You know what I mean? That would have been cool. But just showing the way they did it was bad. I don't think this makes the show unwatchable. The show's still good. There's some good episodes that are rewatchable. Maybe they can make an alternate ending, but it doesn't seem like there's a bunch of hate for the ending right now. Not an excessive amount or anything. A lot of people have mixed feelings about it from what I can see online. But I don't think Gooseworks is going to make an alternate ending. Maybe not, but yeah, if I could, and they'd allow me with the characters, if I knew how to animate and do all that crap, I would. But yeah, don't really have anything else to say about it. Just let me know what you guys think in the comments. Just let me know what you think about my ending. Let me know what endings you would have had. Let me know if you think this ending was perfect and you're like, nah, I'm happy with it. I like that they're stuck in a circus with 4 other people for the rest of eternity. That's a good ending to me. If you like that ending, All right, cool. You know, let me know. And like I said, yeah, I may never make a video on this again because it's over. So it doesn't look like there'll be anything worth making a video about again regarding the Digital Circus. So it was fun to talk about it for once. I really enjoyed the series, and I don't know why. It feels like it's been here for years. It was so strange seeing that the first episode came out 2 years ago. I still can't believe that. It feels like this thing has been around for like 10 years. I don't know why, but it does. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Hope you guys enjoyed the ending better than I did. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.